I say this all the time. So revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality. So
I kind of get that.
yeah,
But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So the revenue part is everybody talks about revenue.
Always.
Yeah, it's all vanity.
I'm
right?
like $3 billion.
Yeah, I got $3 billion in revenue. How much money you make? Zero.
Right.
I
We're
don't have
still
any
losing
profit.
money.
We're still losing money. We're gonna turn around one
Our
of these
burn
days.
rate is.
Treading water is the same as drowning to people like you and me. You better start swimming. Welcome to I'm the One podcast. I'm your host, Robb Green.
All right. Moving on to another phrase, if you have one.
Yeah.
Something around business, money, financial.
Yeah. I say this all the time. So revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality.
Say that one more time.
I have to slow it down sometimes to make sure I get it all right.
Okay.
Revenue is vanity,
Okay.
profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality.
Okay.
So
I kind of get that.
yeah,
But
so,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So the revenue part is everybody talks about revenue.
Always.
Yeah, it's all vanity.
I'm
right?
like $3 billion.
Yeah, I got $3 billion in revenue. How much money you make? Zero.
Right.
I
We're
don't have
still
any
losing
profit.
money.
We're still losing money. We're gonna turn around one
Our
of these
burn
days.
rate is.
So I think that's the easy top line number. That's your top line number, right?
Okay.
Then you've got your bottom line number, which is your sanity, which is your profit, which is what we're really talking about. Is
Sure.
the reason we're in business is to make money eventually. You know, Amazon didn't make money for a long time, but they had a path and a plan to turn it into profit, right? So you've got to make money at some point. You have to make money in the business, right? And then cash flow is reality. And I say that because that kills more small and medium businesses than anything else. Like you can have great revenue and you can have good profit, but if the people you're selling to go out of business or don't pay you for a long period of time, you have no cash to pay your employees, to buy more inventory. You know, I know a few guys that were with a few of these retail chains that have gone under.
Yeah.
Right? They filed BK and they owe them all this money. They're never getting that money.
No.
And if you don't get that money, you feel like you've made the money, but you really haven't made the money until you get the money.
Yeah.
Right? If you're on terms or they're on terms with you and they're making payments to you and net 60 and you're like, we're booking these sales, we're booking this revenue, but I don't get the money yet. If you never get the money, you didn't make the money.
Right.
And I think that's a really important phrase because I hear a lot of this, you know, the revenue side. It's really easy. That revenue gets everyone excited, right? It's clickbait.
Right.
It gets everybody pumped up. And then you're like, well, do you make money? Well, no.
Yeah.
And there sometimes that makes sense, right? Sometimes
If that's the business model. And
if that's the model and you're like, hey, listen, I've got to reinvest for growth.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's why I haven't done a really large business yet is I haven't had that right approach yet to have something to lean into and just invest until it gets big enough and then flip it into a profitable business.
Sure.
But you can't make up a bad business model with bad business unit economics with volume. That's the old story. I'm losing money every one. Well, let's make it up in volume.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Right.
You've got to have a path to be able to have unit economics that makes sense. And maybe it's something where they have like a lifetime value that's large. So you might lose money on if you told me, hey, this person's going to buy my product from me and I'm going to lose money on the first purchase, but they're going to buy 10 more times all day long.
Right.
I'll do that every single day of the week. But this goes back to like, you know, to me, what it means is actually understanding your numbers and really understand the game that you're playing. So many people, and again, we're in acquisition mode right now. So most often people that I speak to don't really understand their financials.
Sure.
They don't know how much they make. They don't really know their revenue necessarily. They definitely don't know cash flow.
Sure.
And so they don't have a clear understanding of their financials. And so then they think they make more. Generally, they think they make more, not less.
Of course.
And then we get into the numbers and you're like, oh, shoot, that's a different conversation we have to have, right?
Yeah.
So
do you find that a lot of the time?
Almost every time.
Really? Almost every time?
Almost every time. They have a number in their head, some round number.
Yeah.
And then you dig in, you say, well, this doesn't really match what you had in your head. Tell me, you know, how we got here.
Are they straight up lying?
No, I don't think. I think most people just don't know.
Okay.
I think it's because it depends on the size of the business, right?
Yeah.
Even medium-sized businesses, $5 to $20 million in revenue, I don't know if they're really looking at those numbers every single day. You know, we had a guest at the mastermind. He won't probably listen to this. We don't talk, so he just came one time, so we'll be okay. But he was doing something like $25 million a year, $30 million a year, and he was losing money on a monthly basis. And he was selling supplements, and we're sitting there in the master. This is day one of the mastermind, and we're all like, "How's this possible?" He's got a great margin. He's direct to consumer. He's, just like his own Shopify site. This doesn't make sense. And we were like, well, hey, how are you losing money? He's like, well, I got 100 employees. And I was like, hey, I raised my hand and I said, well, I'm confused. Do you have like 1,000 products? he's like, no, I got like 20 products. And I said, something's not adding up here. You got 20 products. How do you have 100 employees? Like, what do they do? He's like, well, I got, 10 in customer service and I got 5 that are design. And he got to like 20. And I was like, and I'm like, listen, I barely knew the guy. He's a guest. And he said, well, what the hell do the other 80 do?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what everybody does. And I was like, well, that's your problem.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You could take over his business.
He doesn't sound like he's running the business. He's
not. Business is running him.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so he could get rid of like 60, 70 people. And he's instantly cranking out profit. But he just didn't understand the financials. The next morning we went through financials over breakfast, and I looked at him with him and I said, hey, just take a look at this. Look at this. Do you need 3 people as controllers of your financials when you don't really know there's some easy stuff here for you to lean up and find some opportunities for you to make more money. And I think that's just getting an understanding. And this goes down to the individual on an individual budget basis, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what can the average Joe, how can they apply this to their lives in general?
Yeah, how much do you spend on clothing? How much do you spend on food? How much do you spend on activities? If you don't know the numbers, if you don't measure it, there's no way for you to improve it or even think about it.
And you're talking about a general budget.
Just a general budget. It can be personal or business.
Yeah.
But I think you really need to understand the numbers, because I think so many people in America make really good money and then at the end of the month go, where did all my money go?
Yeah, they're just living and they're doing their stuff and they're not really stopping to look back and or look at it at that point and really see the picture. They're just moving forward, and that's that. They know it's coming in and then it's going out.
Yeah, it's coming in, it's going out.
That's life, right?
At the end of the day, I don't have any money left. What do I do next? And so I think it goes back to like measurement. How do you measure it? And then are you accountable to it? And and it's okay. Like, you want to spend all the money you make. You want to spend all the money in the business. What's the goal? As long as you match up the goal with what your financials are, right?
Yeah.
And I'm fine with losing money on a lot of products and marketing, and if we've got an understanding that they'll turn into more customers or there's an enterprise value that we're building. Yeah. But I just think there's sometimes it's not a clear goal and not clear financials to tie to that goal. Mm-hmm. So that's my advice around that one. I love that one. I think it's a great financial.
That's a good. I've never heard that one. That's good.
I don't even know where I heard. Again, I don't know where I borrowed it from, but it's an old finance terms. Yeah, trademark that. Trademark there. I'm the one podcast.com.
There you go.
So anyway, that's a good one, I think.
All right. So any more? You got any other nuggets, phrases?
Yeah, I think that the next one that goes along in my head, I've got a whole list of these, so I don't get to go through them all. But another one that goes through my mind a lot that ties into the financial piece is don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies.
Okay.
So what is the value that you're getting out of your time that you're investing to solve a problem, right? So an easy example, we'll use business as an example.
Okay.
Right? So we might have something we need to return. And this is a really simple example. We buy something from Best Buy, and it's for the podcast. It's a tripod, and it's $20. Mm-hmm. Okay, is it worth it for our business for me to take somebody who I'm paying $50 an hour to drive to Best Buy and return it?
Right.
I'm losing money on that transaction.
Right.
Right. It's very easy to do.
Right.
Because you don't want to waste it.
Right.
Like, you don't want to be wasteful, but it's very easy. And go, wait a minute, am I tripping over dollars to pick up pennies? And I think you even see this much larger in the business sense. You see it a lot more where you're trying to optimize the wrong thing in business. I'm optimizing this one little thing over here on this side of the business that will maybe save me, a great example, get a better cell phone service. I'm going to save $20 a month.
Right.
Like, how much time am I going to put into that?
Right.
Right. Oh, by the way, if I fix my advertising, we can make another $50,000 a month in revenue.
Right.
Okay, that should probably be where I spend my time.
So prioritizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, is really what that comes down to, is looking at the subject or the case, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, is it worth it, or should I do this, right? Especially in the business sense, like what you just said, Yeah. Because it happens to me a lot. I'm doing things, and I'm like, I just wasted 3 hours doing something that I really needed to be doing this. This would be beneficial. So I get that.
It's easy. I follow this trap. I follow this trap myself all the time.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy because you're like, I want to get this done.
Yeah.
I'm a doer. I want to get it done. I don't want to wait for somebody else. But should I be really investing my time in it? I use free labor as much as I can, also known as my children.
There you go.
As much as I can. But the reality is they're maybe not as capable to do some of the things that I want them to do.
Yeah.
I try to force them to do it, chores and some other things. And it's good for them to learn. But if it's not free labor, it's labor that you're paying for if it's on your team. And you, again, it goes back to you thinking about your own time. How much is your time worth? And should you be doing that, right? Should you be using your time, which is highly valuable, in solving whatever this is? I used to pick up, we have a virtual mailbox at a Postnet. And we'd get returns from Amazon at Postnet. So they would receive all the boxes. For the first couple of years, I was picking that stuff up. Like, I'd go there, be like, just because I felt like I was doing something.
No, I feel you.
I'd throw them in my car, and then I'd throw the boxes away. And a buddy was in town visiting. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, what are we doing here?" And I was like,
"Throw them in your McLaren."
Yeah, like, that's a great point. What am I doing here? That doesn't make any sense. And it's easy to get like sucked into those things.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's really, talking about structure. You got to have structure. You got to have the structure to say, don't do these things. Only do the things that make sense. And so I'll say it, the team's tired of hearing me say this, but don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies. I love that one a lot because it's so easy to get sucked into doing things that don't make any financial sense.
Do you walk around and say that all the time?
I say it to myself. It's usually me muttering by myself.
Okay.
Don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies. And then sometimes they hear me, but I say it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's one of those easy ones. I think I might have came up with this one.
Oh.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
It's a good one. That's a good one.
It feels like I came up with it.
Let's go with that.
I'm probably proven wrong. Somebody will put in the comments here that I would know, but somebody else came up with that. But until someone proves me wrong, I'm taking credit for don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies.
There you go.
We're going to go with that one.
All right. So how can we apply this? What would the easiest way to be apply this to our lives on a daily basis?
If they're not a business owner, I would just think about in your personal life. What are you spending the time on, prioritizing, like you said?
Yeah.
And am I really saving the money? There's an old economic concept and cliche around this about, people that you going to get gas, right? You're going to get gas and you're like, oh, someone tells you, oh, it's 3 cents cheaper 2 miles down the road. My dad would get in the car. He's probably going to watch this. My dad would get in the car and drive down the road.
This drives me insane.
And save the 3 cents times 15 gallons. He saved 45 cents, right? And he spent that much in gas to get there.
This kills me. When people do this, I'm just like, are you joking? Like, you just wasted time.
Yeah.
Your gas money, it doesn't make sense.
But it's because I think we're on autopilot a lot of times. So it goes back to that. Don't just check off the autopilot and think for a second. Does this make sense? Should I be spending my time and energy on this? I say that's the best advice from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
And then from the business perspective, are you putting your team and yourself to the best use to generate the best profits and or the best revenue?
Yeah.
Or savings.
And I think what you're talking about, like, as a personal sense, like, just paying attention to me is the most important thing that we can do, because we're always in the future or the past, which is autopilot, which is what we're talking about. It's what we're used to. And when you can get out of that and practice being mindful and paying attention, you're going to realize, oh, I don't need to drive 20 minutes to go save 3 cents, which is actually I'm going to lose money.
Yeah.
Because it happens. And autopilot is how we live. So the more you can get out of that, the more rich your life is going to be in so many different levels.
I 100% agree. It's awareness.
Yeah.
It's awareness, and it's a financial awareness, right?
Yeah.
And how much you're going to spend. It's easy to make. My daughters are 14 and 13. They're learning this. They're buying on Temu, and they're like, I'm like, how much you spend on Temu? I don't know, Dad. It was like $50. I'm like, I thought everything cost $2. It does, but I bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's learning that experience, how fast it adds up, right? And how quick it goes. I took one of my daughters on a date the other day, and I'm like, man, I remember and again, as is dating me, I'm getting older, but I used to go play the arcade when I was a kid. It was quarters, right?
Yes.
And I took my daughter. She wanted to go to main event, and we played arcade. I have to buy a card now with credits. We spent $50 on our video games, and I don't know if we were there more than an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was like, wait a minute, it's $50 to go play some video games now?
Yeah,
it's insane. So just being aware of spending the money and how you spend money, how fast it goes on those kind of things, and just being aware of where you're spending your time, I think is really critical for that one.
Real quick on the video games.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong, I was good at it. I could throw a quarter in and be on there for ever.
That's a great ROI on your fun. It's a great, now it's like.
I'm not playing that game because I don't know that one. Yeah. I'm going to go through it, but I'm going to spend a good half an hour on a quarter. Yeah, you're right though. It's crazy now.
I used to play Galaga.
Oh, there you go.
I sit there on Galaga and play for a long time on Galaga.
Yeah.
We play pinball and it's over in like 3 minutes and you're like, their money's gone. But I don't trip over dollars, pick up pennies.
Love it.
Yep. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends. Visit I'mTheOne.com and ask me anything. And as always, stay curious and never stop becoming the one.